Yo guys, welcome back to another League Racing video on the channel. Today we are here with PSGL round number 5, the Hungarian Grand Prix. It's actually not round number 5, it's round number 6. Either way, Hungarian Grand Prix. These are the standings going into it. We are leading the championship by 6 points after our win last time out in Silverstone. It was a well fought race by me, but I don't think I should have really won that race. It's just Silverstone helps with the fact it's an impossible track to overtake on, as the dirty air is too much and the strip seam is so little. But that might have you think, well, if Silverstone was so hard to overtake, how will Hungary be? And surprisingly, going into this, I have done a few races on Hungary in this game, and there is a variety of strategies. You can either 2-stop or 1-stop this, and the 2-stop is an incredibly viable strategy, so there will be a lot of tyre delta, and it should be a very interesting race with all the strategy calls. And you can see in the top left we are provisionally P1 on the grid, but our lap wasn't very good, and you can see we're making mistakes. We just mounted the curb on the inside and we're actually a 10th down out of sector 1, and through turns 1, 2, 3 and 4 I knew I had a lot of time there, and we've already lost it, a lot of it, and we did have a lot of chance to gain a lot of time. And there has been a few laps that I've actually invalidated in this session already, because this lap was my banker, and you can see we've actually invalidated.
Kidding me, man. Oh my god.
And I'm very frustrated with that, because the P1 lap was our banker lap, and since then I've only set dud laps, and that actually means that we've lost P1, and that is the first time this season that I have lost pole position. I was on a 4-in-a-row streak, and I was also really annoyed because I really wanted to keep that streak going so I could maybe make a case to get promoted from this tier. But either way, we've made the mistake, and I'm not very happy going into this, and you can see we do have the 2 stops selected. We're going to go start on the mediums, move on to the hards, and then go on to the hards again. And Hungary is a very difficult track to overtake on in the middle sector, so this strategy is very overtake heavy, but it is 5 red lights, and the car ahead gets the drive-through, and away we go, and it's a horrible start. We are just falling and falling. And we are now nearly dropping down momentarily to P7. There's a car up the inside. We're going to try to hang it around Schullin. And we get a bit squeezed by the Alpine. And there is a car still on our inside. And we've somehow went from P2 all the way down to P7 in one straight. And that's went absolutely horribly. But up ahead, the Ferrari gets pushed wide a bit. And that gives us an opportunity to get through. And we move up into P6. But that start was just horrible. If you thought LANDO NORRIS' starts were bad, then, you know, here's Pesci. But, yeah, I mean, what happened there is that I saw the drive-through come up in the top left for the guy in P1, and I saw him move, and I was aware that the light hadn't went, so I held, and I made sure that I didn't get a drive-through. But unfortunately, in doing that, I held way too long, and we just had like a 1 second like hold on the lights. And it's went horribly, and that's a key theme with my races this season. I start on pole or in the top 2 from today's case, but I just have a horrible start, and I just really can't hold it, and that's just prove it. That's just, all these drivers now know it's a running thing in this league that my starts are horrible, and Nico has boxed with his drive-through, and it is, I'm going to blame him for this one, even though it probably is my fault that I can't focus on 2 things at once, but that puts us into P5. And you could see in the background while I'm talking that the lap hasn't been great. Although the opening lap wasn't great, we went off once, we had to look at curriculum, it didn't work. And on the end of lap 2, gonna try and line up a move here, we get on the curb, and up ahead, the McLaren goes off the track. He gets caught on the curb, he spins round, and that gives us another free position. So in the last lap and a half alone, we've gained 2 free positions, and we're back into the top 4. And we move on to lap 6, not much has happened. Hungary still, when there is no tyre data, Hungary is still one of the worst tracks on the calendar for overtaking. But as soon as there is a tyre delta when we start boxing, when everyone starts boxing, there is going to be a lot of overtaking in this race. And we're actually going to decide to go really early for this undercut. We're going to go on lap 6, and the ideal lap is around lap 8 or 9. But if you can also box on lap 6, it's also incredibly viable. Nikita behind us boxes, who is our UFRT teammate, but in this league we're not teammates, but he just trusts my calls. So he's not in a call with me, but he is going to follow me into the pits just there and trust that the strategy works, which I kind of like. But yeah, we are the only 2 drivers to box, and we have so much clean air, and we've got fresh tyres, and having worn tyres on this track is so difficult. It's such a technical track, you just go so much slower, and as well as us being on the 2-stop, we can push the entire race, we can push every single lap. And as we go on to the next lap, Caribou, who was just behind us when we boxed, we easily gap him and overtake him in the pits. And that's just the strength of the undercut. He was directly behind us. As behind me, the Alpine Caribou and Nikita are going side by sides. Caribou does get through, which kind of sucks for me, but he is 2.5 seconds behind, and considering he was within our DRS when we boxed on lap 6, I'm completely fine with him having that gap. And on the next lap, we've gained a lot of time, and we have already caught up to Frenzy and Nico, who obviously Nico had a drive-through. Frenzy's just at the back, but we've managed to catch up to them, and he's not going to fight it too hard. At least we are just going to make that move. He knows that we're just much faster. He's back here on either his own pace or he's been caught up in an incident. We run a little bit deep into turn 1, but that's not too bad. And now we've got Nico, and unfortunately it looks like we're not going to be able to make a move, and I'm knowing that going into this because the rest of this sector is just, the rest of the track is near impossible to go side by side on. We're going to try and go for a move though, however. Going to burn a lot of our battery, move to the outside, he defends the inside, we get a bit of a switchback, and we're going to try and hold it around the outside, but he runs really deep, he pushes us a bit wide, and that puts us onto the surface with no grip, and he does hold the position, and he's not really my fight at all today. Obviously he's now forced into a bit of a one-stop to try and redeem his drive-through that he had to serve on lap 2, but he is just fully messing me up right now. And Caribou is now 1.3 seconds behind me, and we're going to have a bit of a run. We're going to go to the inside, he still defends, we're side by side, but then eventually he breaks early and lets us go. And I don't know why he couldn't have just done that earlier in the lap if he was going to make it so easy eventually. But that's lost us a lot of time. Up ahead, man like Mark in the McLaren, we've caught up to him as well, but luckily he pulls into the pits. And Caribou behind us, 1.1 seconds now, and that gap was 1.5 when we got behind Nico. And onto lap 18 now, we skip ahead quite a lot. A lot of people have now made their stops. This is actually legit position. And Shulin is on the one stop. He's started on the hards. So he's obviously got much worse tyres than us right now. But he is definitely going to fight this. And he is still definitely a threat to our race with the fact that he... Actually, no, he won't be a threat to our race because I'm just thinking we make the overtake easily. But I'm just thinking that he's only got one stop and we still have to make 2. But actually, at this point in the race, we both still only have to make 1 stop. And into turn 19, we have a horrible, horrible braking zone. Miss it entirely. And we run a little bit deep, but we manage to hold on to the position. And Caribou is now behind us, and we're running really deep. And that's now 2 corners in a row we've locked up and had a very, very little grip. So that's going to be my call to then come around the car. Okay, I thought we'd be boxing straight away, but no, we will be boxing at the end of this lap. It is myself and Caribou P1 and 2, Shulin 1.6 seconds behind, and Carithalum, who actually, he's the driver we boxed behind as we run deep again. We boxed in the undercut from behind him, and now he's 4 seconds behind. And we make a late call to dive into the pits, and I think we actually cut the white line a little bit, but no one seemed to report it, so we're just gonna act like that didn't happen. And into the pit smoothly, making sure not to speed. We don't want to ruin this race with a speeding pen, and you just saw that entire lap was just so difficult for me to drive on. I didn't have any pace at all, and I decided, you know what, we again are going to box another 2 laps early because I would have liked to box on lap 21. But the tyres were bad, and I had to take it into my own hands and go against the strategy I had for myself and box. And we've come into a nice gap again. We are actually in a very nice space here. Hacko in front of us, 10 seconds to the car ahead, and whether he's on a one stop or not, that's a very nice gap, and it gives us a lot of time to go full push without any hold up, and hopefully we can overtake a lot of people. And we are actually doing that. We've set the fastest middle and last sector, and behind us Caribou and Shulin come out, and Caribou's getting overtaken by Nico, and that's incredible because that's been that was 1 lap, and we have undercut Caribou by 4.3 seconds with 1 lap on these fresh tyres. And that's just proved my call to box. That 1 lap earlier has proved incredibly well right now, as we have an incredible gap to the car behind, and we still have enough of a gap to go full push to Nikita and the cars up ahead. End of that lap, Nikita is also boxing. He has a 3 seconds, unfortunately, but he isn't really part of our race right now, so we are going to overtake him, and we are going to set the fastest lap of the race. And we have got so much pace and confidence on these tyres, and that's just the difference between fresh and used tyres on this track is insane. It's just such a wide gap. And on to lap 28, we catch up to Curriculum and Alessio Benezzi, and these two guys are actually doing one-stops, and you can just see how easily we're able to close up behind. And there is 7 laps left of this race, and we still have, I think it's around 7 lap fresher tyres than them. So if we can make the moves and we get ahead, they're not gonna challenge us again. We're going to go around the outside of Curriculum. We're going to brake as late as we can. We are going to hang it round. He pushes us a little bit of contact, bit of argy-bargy, but we managed to stay side by side, and up into turn 2, we are going to brake late. We nearly hit into him, but luckily he runs deep as well, and we are able to pick up that position relatively easily. And the gap to P4, the Caribou, who we boxed a lap before, it's still 4.5 seconds. There's only 6 laps left in this race. So once our tyres get a bit worse, even though he's going to have that 1 lap pressure, it really shouldn't be too bad, and we should be able to at least defend from him. But we are going on to the next lap now, and we are going to have our first run at Alessio, who obviously is on the 7-8 lap older hards. So he's not going to make it too difficult. He's going to move to the inside, of course, but we have more battery. And into the braking zone, we actually brake incredibly late, and we go really deep, not wanting to lock up the tyres, and Alessio just drives straight back through. And that's just been really, really bad for us. We broke deep a few times. We're going to try and hang around the outside. A bit of contact made, and we're going to still try and stick around, but he's on the ideal line, and he's going to carry more momentum around the outside. And we really should have had this position, because you can see we nearly run into the back of him there just because we've got so much more grip than him. And we really could have done with just getting past him and then driving into the distance and just wrapping this up really quickly. But we've actually held up. We've been held up another lap, and Caribou is now caught within 2 seconds of us in P4. And we are going to try and do the exact same thing again. Alessio going to defend the inside, and this time we're going to be in the exact same position, and we run a little bit deep again. But this time it's not so bad where he can just drive back through, and we do finally make the position. And Caribou's 2.4 seconds behind, but now we're in clean air, and he still has to overtake 2 people. And we had quite an issue with doing so. Maybe it was because of my own errors, or which it was, but you know, it doesn't really matter. There is such a big gap now, and there is 9/10 between Caribou and P3, and they are teammates, so I don't expect them to fight too hard. But as I said, they've only got 1 lap pressure, so we really should just have this. And you can see the delta. We've already dropped Alessio out now. In one sector we've dropped him out, and as soon as we get through here in the incredibly technical sector, and you need a lot of grip, we've pulled that gap to 1.3, and then yeah, just absolutely nothing happened. We just pulled the gap. Caribou eventually got through, but he got held up, so the gap to P2 is now 6 seconds, and our tyres are completely fine. I managed this stint much better than the middle stint, so our tyres are not feeling bad at all. And we are going to come around the final few corners, and as long as we don't make any crucial mistake, that is going to be the winner, wrapped up with the fastest lap, unless someone's going to take it on the final lap. I can't actually remember if anyone did that or not. But anyway, coming around the final corner, and we have managed
I do not know how
win.
I've won that. I've got no idea how I've won that.
And I felt that race went horribly, because you remember the start, we were in P7 off the start, and we had those lockups in turn 1, and we really shouldn't have won that race, but the undercut really carried. The 2-stop was clearly the fastest strategy, and yeah, and unfortunately Nico actually stole the fastest lap at the end. He finished P7, but he did box for softs, and then just took the fastest lap, which, I mean, it's a bit annoying, but I don't think there's a point for it anyway, so it doesn't really matter. It was just a bit of an ego thing. But these are the standings after that round. We've managed to gain 14 points on Curriculum, who actually finished P4 in the end, I think. He might have actually finished... No, I think he finished P4. Yeah, he did finish P4. It says it right there. He's finished P4, so the gap is now 14 points. And this is the race next week. And next week, it says it's going to be Bahrain, but it's actually Qatar, because there is a bump on Bahrain, which is honestly easily avoidable. So I don't think they really had to change the track. But next week is going to be Qatar, and I apologize for this video being out so late. I feel like it could have been out last week or something. It could have been out weeks ago because this race was like 2 weeks old, and we still have to do Qatar because I've already done Qatar. But either way, I apologize for that. It's going to be better in the future. We're going to keep it more to the time of the race, just so it keeps it in more realistic and there is a bit more hype for these videos. But if you did enjoy, remember to like and subscribe, and I will see you next week. Peace.